Hey everybody, good afternoon. And trying to adjust my uh our blinds, but hopefully you guys can see me. So good afternoon again, everyone. Again, for those that haven't met me or seen me before, my name is Amir Sharifi. I'm the Assistant Deputy Administrator with OSPR, Office of Spill Prevention and Response. So I have a presentation. We're going to go over some responses we encountered this year, some great news, exciting news that happened over the last several months. And actually, so Greg, my colleague, Greg McGowan, a biologist with OSPR, we're going to actually tag team this because he's going to review some slides on response technology and some cool things that OSPR's done in the last year. So with that said, let's go ahead and kick it off with the next slide. All right. First and foremost, big news here at OSPR. We have a new administrator. In the picture, you see Heather Gildart. Administrator Gildart started with OSPR back in September. We're incredibly fortunate and excited to have her on board. Heather comes with 20 years of federal, state, local, and international experience in crisis management. Administrator Gildart previously served as a deputy director with the Disaster Debris Recovery Ops over at another state department, Cal Recycle. She is a California native, and she supported California wildlife recovery efforts, as well as serving on the governor's COVID task force. So, welcome, Heather, and I'm sure you'll be seeing her in the next several meetings as well too. So, next slide. So one of the first responses I'd like to talk a little bit about was kind of interesting. So last year, during our presentation at the annual review, I talked a little bit about a response that involved a tug called the Mazapeta. It was located in the Northern California central portion of our California Delta, 90-foot tug that was moored to this vessel that you see in the picture. This is the marine vessel Aurora, a 300-foot long cruise liner that had been retired for many years. So the Mazapeta last year, as I was kind of sharing with you all, was had sunk. It was removed and it was salvaged. And sure enough, this year, the vessel that it was moored to, the marine vessel Aurora, sunk. And so this was a big collaboration. OSPR entered into a unified command with the United States Coast Guard as well as the city of Stockton. The vessel was ultimately raised and is currently afloat with the assistance of one of our oil spill response organizations that's providing some pumping operation that the city of Stockton is coordinating. This was also unique too. So similar to the Mazapeta, the responses, it's interesting, these pollution events, it's not just the vessel in the immediate area, but rather what makes this situation unique was the city of Stockton, their main intake for their drinking water was located about 1 mile from this location. So naturally, because of the risk of pollution and public health impacts, the city of Stockton actually shut down pumping operations and had to again go back to resorting to purchasing water, drinking water for the city residents. And so very challenging response, but a big shout out to our Coast Guard partners. They were amazing. The response went great. Collaboration, communication, everything. So big thank you to Coast Guard for this, and it went well. And then we had a VIP tour with local Congressman Josh Harders. So again, a lot of these responses, depending where they're at in California, they do gather a lot of political interest as well. So we had our liaison officers and public information office team, along with our state on-scene coordinators, coordinated a VIP tour with the local congressman who toured the scene. Next slide. And I talked a little bit about this as well. So the Oil Spill Response Organization was global. They were involved, as you can see here in the second picture below. The first one was obviously when it was underwater, and then the second one was when it was raised. And so again, big shout out again to United States Coast Guard salvage and engineering response team. We couldn't have done it without them. So thank you. Next slide. And just a few more highlights on this one. So the refloat and pollution removal. So between global diving salvage and assistance with the United States Coast Guard, we're able to recover 21,675 gallons of oily water, 3,193 gallons of hazardous waste. Now, mind you, you can see in that picture on the right below, this vessel, this large cruise liner was in the process of being restored. So there was a lot of hazardous material on there as well that was also removed, which was great. Ended up filling up 5 25-yard bins full of debris. So very successful and needed response effort, and it was a success. So next slide. So Dunsmuir. So in the city of Dunsmuir, which is located north of Redding, California, OSPR has been involved with several entities, part of Unified Command, to oversee cleanup operations. That includes the United States EPA, California Water Boards, the responsible parties, Union Pacific. This is, as noted in here, it's been a multi-year effort to address historic contamination. The land site that you see in the picture below, it contains several fuel storage containers dating back to the early 1900s and some of them held up to 2+ million gallons of diesel or bunker fuel or other types of petroleum products. So over the years, these storage tanks began to leach into the ground, and ultimately, what you see in that photo right there, that is the northern Sacramento River that's above Lake Shasta. And the petroleum product ultimately ended up in the river, started leaching in there. And so I want to say this effort dates back to somewhere around late 2019 where we started. So OSPR has been involved in helping to oversee cleanup, making sure certain endpoints are met, providing environmental expertise, and outlining checkpoints through the process. And so it's been going well. As noted, very diverse Unified Command between California agencies, federal, and a responsible party. A big shout out to the Liaison Office as well as the Public Information Office. They've been instrumental in providing VIP tours, especially for those on the Dunsmuir City Council. So they've also been attending some of those meetings in person as well. And lastly, naturally, folks are concerned about the environmental impacts. And so for our folks, our OSPR staff of the Unified Command, as well as our liaison officers and our public information office team, they help coordinate a open house where members of the public could come and ask questions. They had photos, they had educational material to kind of say what expectations are, what kind of product, and talk a little bit about the response, kind of more of a personalized interaction with members of the community, and it was very well received. So thank you to all the OSPR team members. I know some of them are on this call, so thank you all. Next photo, or next PowerPoint, please, slide. And just a couple photos right here. So there's a VIP tour, as noted, with the City Council representatives from, again, State Senator Brian Dahl's office. You can see the liaison team on the top right, and then one of our environmental scientists below interacting with members of the public, kind of sharing, as noted in that slide right there, wildlife protection measures and what's going on with the event. And then on the left, there's a VIP tour with the City Council representatives. Next slide, please. So this was more recent. This is a smaller event, but I just kind of wanted to highlight some of the important resources at OSPR, within OSPR's toolbox. So OSPR, we have several contracts we utilize when there is not a responsible party, or if a responsible party does not have the ability to provide cleanup services. We call them orphan spill agreements. And in this particular case right here, we were able to deploy our orphan spill agreement and activate a response effort. So what you see here is a fishing vessel, private fishing vessel in the Noyo River, located near Fort Bragg, California, up north. The vessel had sunk. You can see on the water, there's some sheening that's happening right there. Now, this was unique because it was also a joint effort with, so in this case, the responsible party did not have the means to provide cleanup services. So we deployed one of our orphan spill agreements. We got the contractor out there. They immediately began to boom off the area and provide, I should say, they provided additional boom to what was already there and provide cleanup services, and ultimately were able to raise the vessel. The Noyo River Harbor was able to actually then take the vessel, remove it from the waterway. Now, I also want to kind of point out something that our liaison team, our local government outreach coordinator, is responsible for. So here at OSPR, part of our funding structure, we have the ability with our local assistance funds to provide oil spill response trailers. These trailers include different types of boom and other equipment needed to immediately secure and safeguard areas where pollution threat may exist. Um, as so you can see here, so fortunately, the Noyo River Harbor had an OSPR granted response equipment trailer. So the first layer of boom that was provided and was deployed was from that trailer. So helping to mitigate any additional petroleum threat. So once the vessel sank, that equipment trailer was deployed and the boom was set. Then the oil spill response organization was activated via our orphan spill agreement, then came out and they applied additional boom, which you see here. I think that's a sausage absorbent boom that you see in the picture right there. And as noted, state response fund. So here at OSPR, we have the funding mechanism. If, as noted, if we do not have a responsible party or a responsible party does not have the ability to provide cleanup services, we will do that. We will provide the funding and the support needed. Next slide. And this slide right here just talks a little bit about, or it kind of shows the salvage operations, our OSPO response organization member in the water right there. They are working on refloating that vessel. You can see the boom in place, securing off and helping to mitigate any, as I noted, additional petroleum threat. Then for those that aren't familiar with the Noyo River is approximately, I would say, about a half a mile to 3/4 of a mile just east inland of the ocean. So if there were to be a ebb tide or outgoing tide, the product could definitely make its way out to the ocean pretty quickly. So definitely important that we had, very important that we had that response trailer out there on scene and it provided a great level of protection. And next slide, please. So I wanted to highlight some of the efforts that's also taking place within our liaison unit. Most recently, we were able to fund a position that was a full-time tribal liaison. The position liaises with various Native American tribes here in California. So there's been some great efforts and outreach that's been happening this year. I just wanted to call that out. We've been coordinating with other members. Some of the members in this picture below, I'll kind of talk a little bit more, but they actually were part of the OSPR safety team that works within Greg McGowan's group. Big shout out to them. So the tribal liaison, one thing that, as noted back, kind of is similar to our funding that we use to provide equipment grants for oil spill response trailers. We are able to provide preparedness as well as response equipment grants for Native American tribes. So this, as I noted, like as an example, the oil spill response equipment, the trailers, those are also able to be granted to California Native American tribes. Also, we are able to provide preparedness grants, which means which would allow Native American tribes to participate in, say, area contingency plan development or discussion. And so the preparedness grants would cover various operating costs that they would incur in participating in those efforts. And this is just kind of our effort to provide more outreach and support services and engage with our tribal communities here in California. Most recently, OSPR's big shout out to Greg and his team, and I see Jim McCall and his folks in the photo. Your guys are on the call. Great job. This photo right here is a 24-hour HAZWOPER training for a local Native American tribal community. The OSPR site safety folks are engaged in now providing 24-hour HAZWOPER training to tribal communities, which has been great. This is at one of the local tribal community centers, the photo that you see here. Also, so here in California, we test sensitive site strategy evaluations of all up and down the coast or even inland. We reach out to tribal communities to see if they're interested in coming out and participating. So in many of these locations, there is cultural significance. So the more tribal participation, the better. And we just want to make sure that we are, again, collaborating with these communities. And lastly, in drills and exercises, we had a large event last year that I know of that I was attending. It was a Chevron drill and exercise, and so we were able to invite some members from the Native American communities here in California, including those from the Native American Heritage Commission. They participated in the drill and exercise and kind of got an opportunity to see what goes on during response. So very, very great event, and it was well received. Next slide, please. And just some photos from tribal outreach and highlights. You can see that at the top, there's a drill and exercise taking place. Tribal members had attended. And then in the far right picture, top right picture, that's a equipment trailer being granted to one of our local tribal communities and the training that's provided. So the OSPR prevention team, along with our local outreach government coordinator, provides training once the trailer is delivered. So it's not just along with the OSPR response organization providing the trailer. So it's not just dropping off the trailer and going. We provide up to 8 hours of training as well, and also trailer refresher training or equipment refresher training as well. And just several additional photos below too, talking a little bit about how we coordinate with our tribal communities. Bottom right is a 24-hour HAZWOPER that recently took place with local tribes. Next slide. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Environmental Enhancement Fund grants. Okay, so this is the last slide before I turn it over to Greg. So this year, OSPR's Environmental Enhancement Committee recently awarded $7.5 million in grants to fund 8 impactful projects across California as part of the 2024 Environmental Enhancement Fund. These funds are derived from oil spill penalties managed by OSPR. They support environmental enhancement projects near state waters. This year's funding saw a record $154 million in requests, reflecting high demand for environmental restoration. And in this list provided below or in the slide, these are the awarded projects. These projects highlight California's commitment to habitat restoration, climate resilience, and community engagement. So this was a big win for OSPR, and these projects are going to be very impactful, and they're going to be great. So, all right. With that said, I will take questions at the very end, but right now I'm going to turn it over to Greg McGowan with OSPR, and you can advance to the next slide.
Thanks, Amir. I know we're at least 10, looking closer to 15 minutes behind. So I'm just going to buzz through a few. I got 6 slides I'll go through in 5 minutes. And I'm just going to touch on a couple of highlights. So if there's anybody who's interested in any of this, reach out to me and we can go through it in more appropriate detail. I'm happy to talk about it with you. So I'm just going to talk about kind of our remote sensing and some of the things we've been doing recently in that world for technology usage, looking at UAVs, satellites, trail cams, and security cameras. Next slide. Starting with some of the deliverables and just looking at how we're using different ones. In the upper left, that's a orthomosaic, so that's hundreds maybe of individual pictures from the drone, from a UAV, stitched together into one high-resolution image. And if you look at that, you can see it's obviously a nice clear image. You can see the black oil and that's in there. But for example, it's very difficult to see topography. So if you look at the picture just to the right of that with the red, yellow, and green coloring, you can see that's called a digital elevation model. So now you can see more 3D, the actual imagery and kind of how it looks. So that obviously gives relevant information for which way things are going to flow, which way things are going, and that. So it's nice to be able to use different sensors for different objectives. Cutting over to the far right on the top again, that's part of the orthomosaic that was on the left there. It's just zoomed in a little bit. And then below you can see a thermal infrared. This is a steam production part of the oil fields, the Sunset Midway field in California, where they use steam to make the oil a little more flexible. So that heat creates a safety issue. So this was an area where we could not deploy people down to the oil. I'll spare you the details, but initially safety concerns. So it's good to be able to see where that was. Also, obviously, we could see that at night using the thermal infrared. And then just the two on the bottom are the zoom in on the same image just to show that from that orthomosaic, you can zoom quite far in the circled area, which is what's highlighted in the middle underneath the other image. Those are rabbit tracks for size reference. They're 4, 5, 6 centimeters, a couple inches long. Next slide. Looking at some imagery from some remote camera options. So on the left are a couple of trail cams. These are really useful to us for wildlife response in particular, that we can set out cameras at night where we have either staffing challenges to have people spending the night out there, and or the fact that the wildlife may not come around when people are around. So this gives us much needed information, especially where we have a lot of nocturnal species. So we've been making pretty prodigious use of those cameras recently. On the right is your kind of modern home security camera, like people put it on their front door, their backyard or something like that. This is a camera it is cellular enabled, so I don't need Wi-Fi and I don't need power. It's solar powered. So we were able to, this was the American Challenger. You probably can't see, but the dates on these show that this was over several years, these 3 images. And the thing that's nice about it is this was absolute minimum 4 hours out and back. So from a staffing perspective, to be checking on this vessel every day, you're talking a half day minimum, and really is more reasonably a full day just to go out, take a peek, and turn around and come back. So the ability to deploy, look on your phone. This was a $500 unit all total, plus a cheap cellular package. So really great that you could zoom in. It had pretty good night resolution even, although it's obviously quite dark on the coast. But the ability you can zoom and tilt. It even had audio, so you could communicate with somebody out there. So really nice way to kind of make an efficient monitoring of a fairly static site over a couple of years. Next slide. So just kind of looking at these in summary, kind of what are we using remote sensing applications, facility inspections, and that. One note on facility inspections: when we fly facility sites, we always provide the imagery to the landowner or the industry partner, whoever it is. They benefit from it. It creates a common operating image that we can all work from. So it's nice that we can provide something as part of getting a look at things. Site assessments, wildlife surveys. Safety, as I mentioned, is something we can peek over a cliff with a drone rather than sending a person to walk to the edge, and that sort of thing. Oil extent, trajectory, scat, sentinel alerts. Long time the NOAA NESDIS program is amazing. It's awesome. Shout out to NOAA, as we just had used NOAA tools on the tsunami alert that we just had. I hope that the new incoming federal administration in the country values the amazing resources that NOAA makes available, manages, coordinates, as well as their people that do amazing work during the spills and natural disasters. And then some outputs, just looking at digital maps, IRMA, dashboards, web bases. We're really trying to move into more dashboards where we're getting multiple databases overlap to provide custom information to, say, Unified Command versus the Wildlife Branch Director, that sort of thing. And then looking in the future, kind of georeferencing. I have this vision of being able to overlay scat results on an aerial photo with drone overflight so that, say, Unified Command or Ops Section Chief could be look at where they see heavy oiling and then actually click on the map and get a video of that from the day before or something. Next slide. And lastly, just some custom field. You can scroll through so they all show up. The data collection apps, Scatalog. We're working with NOAA and some other partners on actually national SCAT digital tools. John Tarpley is helping to lead that program, so appreciate that, and trying to look at how we can best have tools. But that's an important tool for all of us in spill response. We have an app for wildlife recovery. I'll spare you the details, but it's nice that it ties to our oiled wildlife medical database. So when an animal is captured in the field, the care facility knows that this animal is coming, or hey, we've got 10 pelicans en route, we need to be ready for that. It also provides a single QR code and identifying number that goes with that animal from the moment it's recovered in the field all the way till the time it's released. So it's good for organization. We have our initial site safety plan on an app, so a responder pulls up in the field, boom, they've got that on their phone, and they have all the information they need to create that first day safety plan before we have a site-specific safety plan developed. Wildlife recon, sea otter recon, sampling app for NRDA, and a geographic response plan, field data collection app to kind of help our team when they're out developing a GRP to get data in a digital fashion efficiently. And then my last slide. So, why are we doing all this stuff? We want to be able to create maps, figures, data sets, dashboards, things that you're all familiar with. The second one is really important. We want to reduce the amount of time between the time you're collecting data and the time you have operational deliverables. So SCAT in the old days, you guys remember, you go out in the morning, you spend all day doing SCAT, and then come back to the command post at 4 or 5 o'clock, share that information, get it all consolidated into one, turn that over maybe to GIS, who works through the night. Next morning, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., Unified Command and Operations has workable data to rely on to deploy assets the next day. With this digital thing, as soon as they finish a survey at noon, we have that data. We can prepare a map immediately, so we can compress that operating window. Maybe we can redeploy assets twice a day rather than once a day. So some really great things about there to efficiently collect, import, share, produce data, hopefully reduce transcription errors. And when we do custom apps, the two things that come in, we're using ESRI, the king of all things GIS. So it allows us to make edits and corrections to the applications ourselves, whereas iOS, the Apple version, was challenging for us. And then lastly, that we can connect all these databases, so the wildlife data with the SCAT data, with where our boat launch is, where other things, pull that all into one database that then we can create a dashboard for you as a custom user. Hey, I want this, 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 and this show. So every morning when I come in, I could see the latest. So lots of cool stuff. Sorry, I sprinted through that. Appreciate it. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Greg.